Hello dear viewers, and welcome back to the ancient dwarven hold of our ancestors. Today we'll be taking a look at Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs is an open world action adventure game set in contemporary Hong Kong. It was developed by United Front Games and published by Square Enix. It was released in the UK on the 17th of August 2012. Before we begin, if I could simply ask, dear viewer, that if you like what I do down here in the ancient hold, then please consider subscribing to the channel, giving a thumbs up, and perhaps leave a comment with your thoughts on the game. So, Sleeping Dogs. This is an interesting one for me. These third-person open worlds like Grand Theft Auto et al. Are not really something I play often. I'm more of a fantasy RPG kind of dwarf, but they do sometimes take my fancy. With this though, there was supposedly some cool martial arts fighting system that piqued my interest. I remember playing the old Matrix games with their martial arts and of course all of the scrolling beat-em-ups, fighting bad guys in alleyways, that sort of thing, so it seemed right up my alley. In Sleeping Dogs, you take on the role of Wei Shen, an undercover police officer that was born in Hong Kong but moved to San Francisco when he was 10 years old. He later became a police officer. He has come back to the city of his birth to work with the local police force in an attempt to bring down some of the organised crime in the city. You must integrate yourself into the criminal organisations and gain their confidence, but you should also try and hold on to who you are and why you're doing this in the first place. The game was released over a decade ago, so it isn't going to be top-notch in terms of graphics. Saying this, for the time I would say they were quite decent. I would further say that they have aged pretty well. The fidelity of mainstream games at this time was at a level that they could hold their own years later without looking past their prime. You know me by now, dear viewers, I don't really care if the graphics aren't bleeding edge with all the bells and whistles. The overall graphical fidelity is good for its time, and it's still good now. Modern Hong Kong is imagined here into 4 districts, creating a large open cityscape for you to explore. As you might expect for a game of this ilk, the city is busy and bustling with all different parts of it having different unique features. There are what some people might call poorer areas, fancier areas, parks, harbours and all sorts. I have never been to Hong Kong, and from what I can find it isn't a brick for brick reconstruction, but what the developers have done is create a believable and breathing metropolis that you can run about as you wish and get lost in. Sadly, a lot of the buildings are not enterable, but again this is kind of expected and isn't really much of a negative in my view. The different models featured in Sleeping Dogs, from the people to the various vehicles you can drive, are well designed and quite lifelike. The character model for your character, Wei, is detailed and can convey some meaningful emotion during conversations. Other main story characters are similar in this regard. The people walking and driving about are detailed enough not to bring down the aesthetic too much. All of the cars and vans and bikes and such look like vehicles you might see in real life and handle accordingly. The game looks good as you play. The chases you get into both on foot and in car feel quite real and lifelike, drawing you into the scene. The melee combat is designed very well, with player movements animated more than sufficiently. The same with gunfire and other weapons. The soundscape of the cityscape is fitting and well produced. The background music is largely denoted by the radio station you're tuned into while riding in a vehicle. Like the GTAs I played back in the day, like Vice City, you can flick between different stations, each playing different genres of music, from metal to hip-hop, dance music and all that. There are some songs or bands I even recognised, rather than it all being generic take on whatever genre was being portrayed. All of the dialogue between yourself and other characters in the game is fully voiced and voiced well with conviction. It is most easy to believe in what someone is saying rather than being deadpan and uninteresting. This helps to draw you further into the story and the interactions between characters. The dialogue in Sleeping Dogs and voice acting are doing their jobs well. The sound in combat is also good quality. As you punch and kick your way through many fights, all the appropriate shouts and groans are present, which add weight and meaning to the crazy violence. The more ambient sounds of the game like this are important too. That background noise of people talking, car engines and wheels turning is done well, I think. It all adds to that sense of a living city. You begin the game undercover, participating in a drug deal. Here you're introduced to your character and some of the game systems, like chasing someone on foot, parkouring and combat. You are shortly arrested and taken into custody. Once in the station, you are introduced to several law enforcement characters like your boss and your handler, along with some backstory as to what you are actually doing as an undercover cop. You are then released with no charge by your commander and sent off into the city. From here, you're free to go and do whatever you wish. There are police and criminal related story missions for you to choose from, along with other smaller side missions that you can participate in. The main story quests further the story, of course, of you moving up the ranks of the criminal underworld, getting deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, while also furthering leads on suspects that will be brought to justice. The side missions are standalone events like being a getaway driver or arresting some street thugs down some alleyway. The story missions are quite involved and will push proceedings forwards, taking you to different locales throughout the city. You will engage in violence, deceit, chasing down subjects and taking out rival gangs, all stuff that you might expect from such a game, and it is done very well. Some side missions might not be too exciting, but the set piece stuff, the main thrust of the story, is well executed and interesting. Some of the characters are well written and not simply one-dimensional angry thugs or straight-laced police officers. There is a lot of grey going on here. In fact, that becomes a lot more so as the story progresses. When you complete a mission, your score is taken into account, which then denotes how much experience you will receive. Do well in a criminal mission doing criminal things, then you'll get a good amount of criminal XP. Doing well in police-related missions not causing damage or killing people, then you'll get a good amount of police experience. Lastly, there is face experience, which you gain for increasing your notoriety in the game. Partaking in story missions will increase it, but also other activities like street racing events that are sprinkled throughout the districts in the city. When you acquire enough experience in any of them, you'll be able to unlock new talents that are appropriate to the type of experience gained. For example, gaining a level in law enforcement might allow you to disarm assailants and find guns in the back of police cars, while criminal talents might make it easier to break into cars. It is quite interesting, really. You're rewarded for performing well in certain ways and areas, rather than simply awarding you a base amount of XP whatever you do. So there is certainly a need to be mindful on what you're doing, rather than simply blowing stuff to pieces or destroying most of downtown in a car chase. There are car chases, street fights, shootouts and all sorts to keep you busy during play, and it's all good fun. Besides these are numerous characters and things you can interact with of your own accord. You can steal cars, buy food, hack CCTV, crack locks and game buffs from food vendors. You can enter shops and buy clothes, as well as climbing and running all over the place. There are also collectibles and special interactions for you to find out in the world, which rewards those that like to go exploring. And these have tangible rewards like increasing your health points or unlocking new fighting moves. The combat in Sleeping Dogs takes on various forms. There is the melee combat you'll be involved in using your fists and close quarters weaponry, as well as gunfighting and vehicular combat. The gun combat is perfectly fine on both wheels and on foot, but it is the melee fisticuffs that stand out here. I don't know what martial arts, if any, that your character is exhibiting, but it is a lot of fun. You can pull out multiple combos and directional blows while performing fancy counterattacks to any who dare attack you. It's good fun disarming a foe before smacking them with your own weapon, or kneeing someone before toe-punching them into oblivion. The special jade statues you collect throughout the game can be brought to your Sifu at the Combat Club, where he will exchange them for learning a new move, with 12 in total. He will also provide you with some free philosophical advice to go along with your newly learned skills. There are also environmental moves too that you can pull off, like smashing a car door into someone's head or throwing them into a large rubbish bin. The fighting can feel very cinematic as you combo and counter all the bad guys trying to take you out, and it always feels enjoyable. Only one fight in particular was really difficult, and that was a side quest, so completely optional. You can change your outfit by acquiring new clothes from shops or earning them in missions, allowing you to clothe way as you like, with certain combinations granting passive buffs like extra melee damage or more XP. This is cool and what you might expect from a game like this, but there are also some cool special outfits that you can purchase in game. These can provide special abilities to your character, with my favourite being the Drunken Master outfit. This allows you to go into Drunken Master mode during combat, pulling off new moves that you might see if you saw some of the old Hong Kong movies back in the day. Good fun indeed, dear viewers. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with the game. Driving vehicles at top speed while trying to avoid crashing into stuff, fighting bad guys and taking down suspects provided a fun game loop to participate in. The city is well designed and feels like a lively one, brought to life by the developers. The physics and movement of characters and objects is impactful and smooth. The story too is not a throwaway one and reminds you a lot of the old movies of undercover cops questioning who they are and what they stand for. Sleeping Dogs is a really solid game and one that you can get lost in for hours just making your own fun even without touching the story missions. If you like these open world GTA-like games, hurtling about bespoke cities, then I think you will more than enjoy this. If you like games with visceral combat or want to feel like you're in a John Woo movie, then I would certainly check this out. If you like to have a lot of game for your buck, then this would certainly fall into that category too. This is a fine game and one that I'm glad I played, especially as this isn't a genre I check out much. I would say it's worth it at full price most definitely, but if you can get it on sale, this is a total steal. And there we go, dear viewers, another video from me here in the ancient dwarven hold of our ancestors. I hope you're doing well, and I shall see you next time.